Thomas Krenz of the Guggenheim Museum has infuriated the highbrow elite not only with what he selects to put on exhibit, but also with the changes he has brought to the way art institutions operate. And now his most incendiary project yet will change the New York City waterfront.
Here's the cool thing is that we do this, the tent, but the 15 by 15 is kind of small.
The taller man is Tom Krenz, with Italian painter Francesco Clemente, whose works are on exhibit at the Guggenheim right now. This, though, is months ago in Clemente's New York City studio, as Krenz selected paintings with show curator Lisa Dennison.
The flower one, we're talking about.
The flower one.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
We always talk about that.
That's it.
Wow, these are so beautiful.
One admirer, supermodel and actress Lauren Hutton.
So how many
What
months
she
are
got
these?
to do with the Guggenheim? A lot, it turns out. Tell you at lunch, after she studied all of Clemente's erotically posed figures.
And there he is, trying to capture it all.
Now that they're on exhibit, Clemente's works are attracting huge crowds. But no painting has ever brought as many museum goers to the Guggenheim's famous Spiral Gallery as a show of motorcycles 1 year ago.
It's 140 motorcycles on the sacred Frank Lloyd Wright ramp of the Guggenheim Museum, and the entire museum clad in stainless steel by Frank Gehry on the inside. That's not subtle. I mean, you know.
The longer lines stretched, usually around the block, the more shocked and appalled critics got. Some said Krenz was pandering to lowbrow tastes. And so what's the criticism? You profaned the space?
I don't think there's any criticism anymore.
Yes, there is.
The trouble with the Guggenheim is this emphasis on achieving and maintaining a high profile over the kinds of things that museums are really supposed to be focusing on.
Eric Gibson, who reports on art and culture for the Wall Street Journal, says Krenz is dumbing down art. Gibson believes the Guggenheim should be putting on more innovative shows and sponsoring scholarly research. Krenz said this show on Chinese antiquities met those standards, but so did the motorcycles.
Let's take a fresh look at this object. Let's look at it as a vehicle for design, as a vehicle for technological innovation. I mean, it's what museums should do. It's interesting stuff. It should be slightly surprising.
Krenz has been surprising the museum world since the Guggenheim board hired him in 1988. He talked like a corporate executive, odd for a college art professor, but his postgraduate study at Yale was for a sort of business degree for directors of nonprofit organizations. And as he used management training to analyze the Guggenheim's future, it was bleak. Shrinking attendance, shrinking endowment, shrinking government and corporate support.
Putting it in classical economic terms, it was becoming a mature industry, and we didn't have a great position in it.
The remedies Krenz undertook offended critics much more than motorcycles ever would. They say he used the museum's art collection as collateral for a $55 million bond issue, cash needed to repair the building, a Frank Lloyd Wright masterpiece which was falling apart.
The value of the bond issue was greater than the value of their endowment, so there was a gap there.
He was betting the company on this.
Well, effectively, yes.
Would creditors cart off paintings to settle debts? The Guggenheim said never. But then to raise more cash, Krenz sold 3 famous paintings at auction, a Kandinsky, a Chagall, and a Modigliani. Eric Gibson and others said that just isn't done.
A museum collection is like an encyclopedia. You know, you want to keep all the volumes together. It's not, I have 27 books, let me get rid of a few here, because then you find out you've gotten rid of the K volume.
But the fact that there were 3 names, and we did it publicly, and we did get a huge prize.
$47 million?
Yeah, it was $47 million. I think the estimate range was 18 to 21. We did it at a perfect time, at the height of the art market, and by doing it as publicly, we were excoriated in the press.
$1 million to produce the piece. The equipment needs are $200,000.
Included in the million?
Then there was this, Krenz enjoying the art of the deal, maybe more than the art.
And so, as you're saying, is that The difference is $500,000.
500,000.
So let's just make the case. It's a negotiation. It'll take 2 months to work out.
I have the same experience all the time in the business.
Insurance executive Peter Lewis, billionaire chairman of the Guggenheim's board of billionaire trustees, most new since Krenz, by the way, says any museum today must employ business and marketing strategies, competing as it does with theme parks and movies and all other forms of popular entertainment.
It's become a place where people go to escape from the rigors of business. But the museums have costs and they have revenues. And when those don't match, the museum's got problems.
And even Krenz's critics say he put the Guggenheim, which is tiny compared to its rivals in New York and other cities, on the map.
He's given the Guggenheim a level of visibility that every other museum director, I think, must envy.
I mean, I look at it that there are 900,000 visitors that come to this museum every year, and that means 900,000 different experiences.
Giving that experience to more people was the next step, as Krenz explained while walking past Picasso's gathered for another exhibit. But that wouldn't be easy. The Guggenheim only has room to show 5% of its paintings at any one time.
To me, the fundamental issue was space, that there wasn't enough space, simply, to do the job well.
This is an etching that was done.
The solution? He started sending the Guggenheim's artworks to museums around the world. More people saw them, and income soared because the other museums paid fees to the Guggenheim.
But they're very, very rich in interpretation.
Next, satellites, new Guggenheim galleries, this one in Manhattan's Soho district. Then, international satellites. There was already one small gallery in Venice. Krenz created new Guggenheims in Berlin. And in Bilbao, Spain, where the titanium-clad curves of this Frank Gehry design made this building more than a place for art, it is an economic locomotive, pulling people and money to a region that was dying. 1.6 million visitors in its first year, $219 million. There's Krenz during construction, when even some friends were calling this practice Mac Guggenheim, franchising the museum like a hamburger chain.
What he's done really has been to create a new kind of museum. It's the art museum as multinational corporation.
It would not have happened but for Tom's willingness to say, what's been done before is not relevant. I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
But Eric Gibson sees a downside.
If you conceive the museum as an engine of economic growth, you're going to think, well, can we do this show, which might be of slightly marginal interest to the public, but is extremely worthwhile from the point of view of research and art history, or shall we just put the motorcycle show in here and be confident that they'll line up around the block to see it?
Is this a 1-hour program on the biographies of these 6 women, as told by Lauren Hutton?
At lunch, another project to make art accessible. Videotaped programs hosted by Lauren Hutton. The first about 6 Soviet modernists they'll call Amazons of the avant-garde.
Look at what this woman did in 2 years. She went from theirs, early Cubism, to that in 2 years.
After dessert, Hutton praised what she called Krenz's bravery and innovation. I got the feeling from some of his critics that people were saying he's letting the barbarians inside the gate.
I said,
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Now an idea sure to create more fireworks than any to date. A new Guggenheim on the New York City waterfront. Much larger than Bilbao. Another Frank Gehry design so radical it makes Bilbao look like a shoebox.
Here's some napkins.
Krenz let the cat out of the bag in a meeting with artist Henry Buell.
I would say there may be 10 sites that this could be on, from the Midtown West Side all the way around to the Brooklyn Bridge. Probably of those sites, 7 are on the waterfront and 3 are inland. hey, what's going to be here is there's going to
Should
be a
this
Larry
idea
Wiener
become
piece
reality,
here and a Larry
costing
Wiener piece here.
$850 million at current estimates, Krenz will have to face down more than art world traditionalists. All the parties with an interest in what gets built in New York City will need tending. Still, it could cap his decade-long effort to redefine what museums are.
I mean, I want to make the argument for putting this in the middle.
And what a museum director does.
The shape of what these institutions look like and their role in society was essentially up for redefinition. And I saw it as an extraordinary opportunity.